Loaded. President dire consequences. He tweeted this morning, military solutions are now fully in place. Locked and loaded should North Korea act unwisely. He followed up this afternoon with this.
I hope that they are going to fully understand the gravity of what I said. And what I said is what I mean. So hopefully they'll understand, Peter, exactly what I said and the meaning of those words. Those words are very, very easy to understand.
And then he elaborated.
And this man will not get away with what he's doing, believe me. And if he utters one threat in the form of an overt threat, which, by the way, he has been uttering for years, and his family has been uttering for years, or if he does anything with respect to Guam or any place else that's an American territory or an American ally, he will truly regret it, and he will regret it fast.
A few hours later, the president addressed the threat again from his New Jersey home alongside his top advisors.
Nobody loves a peaceful solution better than President Trump, that I can tell you. Hopefully it'll all work out. But this has been going on for many years. Would have been a lot easier to solve this years ago before they were in the position that they're in. But we will see what happens. We think that lots of good things could happen, and we could also have a bad solution. But we think lots of good things can happen. And if anything happens to Guam, there's going to be big, big trouble in North Korea.
All right, so I just asked Greg, what are the good things that are going to happen? You said there's going to be good things.
Well, first of all, fire and fury, locked and loaded, those are basically Chuck Norris's safe words. And I think that, Donald Trump is using our language, which not political language, but our language. It's blunt, it's hard. He's negotiating. He's in a different position. And I feel like every president has this. North Korea has always been part of the employee orientation. It's like every time you become president, you got to go through the North Korea thing, and then you can pass it. It's like employee orientation.
Set it aside.
Yeah, but he's doing it in a different way because I think he's seeing a different way of doing it. I.e., getting the sanctions agreed upon by 3 different factions was a plus, and he's basically he's speaking to North Korea in a language. Their survivalist language, which is bluffing. They're bluffing. And so he is calling their bluff, but it's something bottom line, we aren't going to do anything until they do something. So are they going to do something? I think we just sit and I be calm about Guam.
There's nothing else we can do.
Right.
Like earlier today, we talked to the Wall Street Journal bureau chief in Seoul, and I said, what's the mood there? He's like, well, people pretty much have lived with this for a couple decades, so they're not really that worried. And I think that there's multiple levels of communication going on, back channels, front channels, say this, you say that, bad cop, good cop. But one of the things he said today I thought was interesting, Jesse, is he was asked a question about, somebody said, well, what about when Kim Jong-un says this? And President Trump, who had just come from a briefing with his top advisor, said, I don't think it was he that said that. Like, he's very specific. Like, Kim Jong-un hasn't said anything in 3 days. So until I hear him actually say it, I'm not going to react. I thought that was an interesting thing, maybe a signal to Kim Jong-un that there's an opening.
Trump takes this North Korea situation personally. He believes that Kim Jong-un has disrespected Trump, he's disrespected America, and he's disrespected our allies in the region. And Donald Trump, anything, he is big into respect. I don't think he's doing anything differently than any other U.S. commander-in-chief would do to protect our allies and our territories. He's just saying it a little bit differently. He's using more colorful language. And you don't want to bluff the ultimate bluffer. This is Trump's game. I mean, he's a real estate tycoon in Manhattan. This is what they do. This is how they price things out. This is how they evict people. This is how you negotiate contracts. I don't think Kim knows what he's getting into. And what he's doing, which is very smart, is saying, you're not going to not only threaten San Francisco or California, you're not going to threaten Guam. No one knows anything about Guam. But the fact that in America, the fact that Guam is being protected as if it was a state and as if it was our core ally in the region draws the line so far in the sand.
But we have military there.
It's very strategically important because it's so much closer to North Korea than Hawaii.
It's a forward operating base, and that's where we have all the B-52s, but no one in America knows where Guam is.
Fred Schneider hasn't been seen all week.
Are you insulting all of America?
There's a woman.
You've done too many Waters Worlds.
There was a woman.
You go in the street and ask where Guam is. They think it's a dinner.
No, well, actually, and there's a woman at the Washington Post named Michelle I think it's Yi Lee, and she did all the questions you ever wanted to know about Guam because she grew up there and all sorts of, I didn't know, like you call them Guamanians, in case you were wondering.
I think I need to do a Wonders World in Guam.
Well,
I'm
you
going
know
to be
what?
back
Yeah.
in about a week.
Well, why don't you do that for
I know
the
some
coffee?
people that would like you to go there. Somewhere around the time of mid-August.
Like half the country?
Yeah.
Prearranged trip. Can I say one thing about the diplomacy? I do think that there have been some successes beyond the Saturday Security Council vote that was 15-0, because today China said that it will not get involved.
North Korea.
With North Korea, it would stay neutral, and it's something that was really a signal, I think, to the North Koreans. Again, I think the administration talking to all these different players on a different path than maybe you've seen before. So I think that there's more diplomacy going on than meets the eye when you see the president make comments like that.
Yeah, and I think China stepping up in that way was significant. I hope Kim listened to what you just said, because I think I also agree that the president this is his game. This is how he talks. He talks big in the hopes that he can intimidate or persuade, depending on your vantage point, right? Problem is, I just don't know that Kim knows that, right? I don't know that Kim sees it that way. We talked about this a little bit last night, that he's the kind of guy who you come back at him with the same kind of language he uses, and it might escalate his own
Does Kim want to find out? That's the calculation he has to make.
Well, and also, you know, the way the presidents have talked, using the exact same language, just in slightly different terms, in slightly softened terms, but essentially saying the same thing. President Obama did it. You know, peace-loving hippie President Obama said that if North Korea acts, they essentially will be annihilated with our military
Although
arsenal.
an attack wasn't imminent, and the intel now shows that this is all like coming to a head.
And North Korea says it's coming to a head because they've given us a time and a place. And I think that the president is sort of surmising this and with more psychological strategy than we've seen presidents do in the past. And I actually think the people should have a little bit more strategic patience in this country and see if that might work, because we're also hearing today in the aftermath of this that there are diplomatic back channels and that there is some sort of a dialogue. And I think that's the most interesting thing. And to get back to something that you said at the beginning of the show, Greg, you're absolutely right that you said that this is the part of the presidential orientation that every administration despises. I would say, like, North Korea, unfortunately, is part of the three failures. And that is peace in the Middle East, some sort of a friendly relationship with Russia, and disarming nuclear North Korea. And every administration tries to do the same thing with all three in slightly different ways, and so far they've all failed.
Wait, you're saying Trump can't beat North Korea, bring peace to the Middle East, and cozy up to Russia? Like, Kushner's going over there next week.
Done.
We have everything taken care of.
And number three, already.
All right, it's in motion.
And number four is always fix health care.
No, Obama actually, he messed it up so badly.
Don't forget balance the budget.
Yeah,
That's
there
a
you
good
go.
one. Can we play for you, Greg, a soundbite from Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North about sanctions?
I'm not sure.
The problem with sanctions is they take too damn long. I mean, the bottom line of it is this is something that needs to be shut down in days, not weeks or months, and certainly not in years.
President Trump said today at the press conference that they are considering more sanctions and at a higher level.
Sanctioning who?
Well, he didn't say. I would imagine it's maybe possibly more with Kim, because apparently one of the things he likes to do to keep everybody around him happy is give them gifts, like lavish gifts. And then if you cut off his ability to do that, maybe the people in the military will start to get antsy and turn on him.
Yeah, I think you know, you have to sanction and hit everybody, including, and I said this before, that North Korea is bad, but so are its parents, its foster parents who neglected and deprived it. So I think you got to hit China. You got to go after the banks, do all that stuff. I think the easiest reflex is to attribute irrationality to North Korea. And we've done it too, and I've said it. I go, this guy's nuts, and we always make fun of this nutty, crazy character. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. But embracing the assumption that he's irrational writes off any of these options. It's like, oh, none of this stuff is going to work because he's going to starve his people. He's a crazy person. But there is a rationality behind this bluffing.
Yeah, and it's also, it speaks to his control and his authoritarian control over the country, where he uses propaganda and starvation and prison camps in order to keep his society in line. But it's interesting because, you know, you look at other regimes like this who've had totalitarian dictators in the past, and they have sort of this hegemonic goal. Like they want a big landmass. Even Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Like, he wants a caliphate. He wants more and more land. And Kim Jong-un doesn't operate in the same way.
No.
You know, he wants unification of Korea on his terms, so South Korea becomes part of North Korea. But I think that's one of the biggest things. There are two things here that make this time in our history with North Korea very different. And one is what you said. And then, we have to put pressure on China. And we realize that in a way that wasn't as evident in past administrations.
He does like his lick, so it's a bite, but it's not a big bite. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure there'll be another round. They're going to.
You know what we haven't really talked about, and I think remaining calm is really good, but there is also a huge international event happening in just 6 months, and that is the Winter Olympics that will take place in Seoul in February, Mo.
No, that's I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see how the next couple of months play out. The Olympics take place. You get all these athletes from around the world who come there, those who do go, right? And
well, you can't allow the North Korean teams to participate, correct?
Well, you can't allow North Korea to do anything that would suddenly put all these athletes behind some sort of a scepter of danger, and that would be the bigger concern, I would have.
Cancel the Olympics, and here's why. It's just too much. Every 2 years. No, it's just every 2 years. I liked it when they were both every 4 years, because then I looked forward to it. But every 2 years, I get exhausted by it.
You don't like the speed skate?
It also hurts our ratings.
The Greeks would never do that.
The real reason.
The Greeks would have waited for 4 years.
Yeah. Right? You got to appreciate it. Like, I think Christmas should be every other year, but that's just me.
All right, we have more to come. The president had some words today for those who say he's talking too tough on North Korea, as we've been telling you. Stay tuned for more of that ahead.
Back now to President Trump's new stern warnings for North Korea. The president's been receiving pushback from some critics, like former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, who don't like this tough talk aimed at Kim Jong-un.
Preemptive war, if one were actually thinking of executing that, would be catastrophic. President Trump's initial threat was tied to not an attack on the United States, which of course we need to be very clear about, but Kim Jong-un making another provocative statement or threat, which is almost inevitable. So we need to be very measured, very careful, very planned in our rhetoric.
Mr. Trump has this to say to her and others.
If somebody else uttered the exact same words that I uttered, they'd say, what a great statement, what a wonderful statement. They're only doing it, but I will tell you, we have tens of millions of people in this country that are so happy with what I'm saying, because they're saying, finally, we have a president that's sticking up for our nation and, frankly, sticking up for our friends and our allies.
And Rush Limbaugh certainly supports that.
Now, members of Congress are worried that his blunt and provocative warning to North Korea could lead to war. What does this mean? It means that wimpism has taken over the Washington establishment, that wussism and wimpism and pajama boyism has taken over. North Korea is a zit on the butt of a pig, and there's no reason to be afraid of it. Would we run around acting afraid of a zit on a pig?
Colorful language from Rush Limbaugh, Gutfeld. So let's just game plan this out. If President Obama had threatened North Korea with fire and fury, I bet Pajama Boy leap off the couch, say this is the greatest statement ever by an American commander-in-chief.
It's possible, but first I want to address the 1,000 people on Twitter asking me about my glasses. I have pink eye. I had it last night. I have to wear glasses for 7 days. Okay, you kids on Twitter. Now, stop making fun of my beautiful glasses. By the way, my wife picked them out. I think they're lovely.
They're very good.
Okay, now to the serious stuff. I get the sense that the media fears Trump more than North Korea. Yep. And they also fear Donald Trump being right. I think it bothers them that at times that they have to sit there and go, well, maybe I was a little harsh. Susan Rice wrote a piece in the New York Times in which she described Kim Jong-un's language as colorful, but Trump's as dangerous.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing. They have to settle down and get used to the fact that this is how he operates, and this is how he negotiates, and this is the language that he uses, and relax. And Rush is right. You're talking about 25 people in a dark prison. That's North Korea. It's a very tiny.
Yeah, it's actually 180,000 people they estimate in the prison camps. Can I say one thing quickly about that? Susan Rice and James Clapper and John Brennan can go away. They can absolutely go away. Yeah. They are no longer in power. Their opinions are no longer required. They can go away. They are not helping. How would President Obama like it if Louis Freeh and John Ashcroft were floating around their banjo-happy ideas and slapping out diplomatic tunes on Sunday talk shows? Come on, go away.
Mo, address that, because the Obama people did not have a lot of success all over the world, but specifically with North Korea. And then for Susan Rice, who has very little credibility at this point, to come out and criticize President Trump for mishandling a threat that her administration dumped in his lap is a little irresponsible.
Well, you know, everyone has the right to their opinion,
sure,
right? And
I disagree, Mo.
I don't think that there were a lot of people who didn't support President Obama who were clear about their opinion while he was in office, and so she has the right to voice hers. I've got mine, right? And my opinion is that this president, with the way he is escalating the rhetoric, makes me a little bit nervous, right? I disagree with Rush. You know, North Korea is a zit on a pig that has a nuclear weapon now, right? We can talk about how we got there. Or maybe
60 of them.
Or maybe 60 of them. We can talk about how we got there, right? And I think every administration leading up to this one bears responsibility for that, Democrat and Republican, 100%. But escalating a war of words with a person who thrives on that, I just don't know if that's the right way. I hope there is a multifaceted strategy here, right? I believe that some of the people that he's surrounded himself with in the national security apparatus, people like Nikki Haley, are proving themselves to be quite good, right? The way she navigated the Security Council, what we saw out of Russia, out of China today, all of that is very helpful. But when the president continues to escalate the rhetoric the way he did not only with North Korea, but tossing out there cavalierly today the notion of military action against Venezuela.
I love that. I love. Can I tell you why? I'm sorry, Dana. Okay. There are two things that you hear the phrase "good cop, bad cop." In this case, you have a lot of good cops and a bad cop. You have Trump, and then you have Haley, Kelly, Pence, Mattis. So he's, you know, this is a strategic way of talking. The Venezuela thing is to say to the world that we can handle North Korea with one hand and do stuff on the other. It's saying that it's saying that this is not. North Korea is a priority, but we got other stuff to deal with. I think it's a psychological trick. It's a persuasive trick to say, don't worry about it. We got it covered.
I just don't.
Closing argument, Ms. Perino.
Well, I'll just talk about Venezuela then, because if the regime in Venezuela gets nervous and backs off and of hurting innocent people, that wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing. I don't think for a second the president is actually contemplating military action in Venezuela, but if they're worried that he would, that's fine. However, should he? And I'd be for it, because I got that label, right, the neocon label. But I was criticized for that so heavily during the campaign by Trump supporters. When now I'm like, oh, actually, I'm for that. And so when you become president, things look a lot different on the inside. You get those briefings. And the reason I think that we're just going to have to trust him. He's the president that we have. So the concern about rhetoric, he's the one that you have. And so he does not want nuclear war. He knows his ultimate responsibility. The most solemn obligation is to protect the United States of America and its citizens. And he is doing that, and he will do that in his own way. He is surrounded by really good people that have been dealing with crises their entire life. Maybe not one just quite like this. And it's perhaps why you have this poll that says 82% of Americans fear nuclear war with North Korea. I think that's a healthy fear, as long as it doesn't get in the way of your daily life. We're going to have to trust the president. And I think that he hasn't given us any reason not to.
And the president spoke to the leader of Guam today, and we have some new tape for you. Let's hear that.
Hey, good morning. It's great to speak to you, and I just wanted to pay my respect. And we are with you 1,000%. You are safe. We are with you 1,000%. And I wanted to call you and say hello. How are you?
Mr. President, as the governor of Guam, representing the people of Guam, and as an American citizen, I have never felt more safe or so confident with you at the helm. So with all the criticism going on over there from a guy that's being targeted, we need a president like you. So I'm just so thankful, and I'm glad you're holding the helm, sir.
They're not going to have to leak that transcript.
There it is.
He'll show you.
Well, next we delve into yet another PC controversy. We'll tell you about that drama when the 5 returns.
Sammy Hagar. Not my choice. The national movement to change the names of sports teams or buildings or landmark deemed offensive to some has now reached a school district in my hometown of Portland, Oregon. So proud. The Centennial School Board this week voted to change the names of 3 elementary schools with the name Lynch in the title. The name Lynch in response to growing concern about the word's racial connotations. Lynchview, Lynchwood, and Lynch Meadows were named for the Lynch family, who donated the land for the schools over a century ago. Here's the school board chair.
We are doing what we believe is right for our children. We have children of color in other cultures, and we want to make sure that they're able to cross the threshold of those 3 schools and be comfortable within their surroundings.
So, Greg, do you think it's really doing a greatest service to children to not teach them to differentiate between
a verb and a noun?
A proper noun and a verb?
You know what? I don't think she should stop there. They should go after Loretta Lynch, Merrill Lynch, Lynch Pins, Jane Lynch. Look, who does this satisfy? This satisfies people outraged for a cause. They're operating under the false belief that somehow these words are personally attacking them. It's fake outrage syndrome. It makes them feel good. I believe that it is an actual sickness to feel strongly about something like this. Meanwhile, Portland, they're upset about words. And what is happening in Portland right now? You have it's the hotbed of violence. Antifa going after people. So instead of going after the Antifa, which are beating up peaceful protesters, which is what happened last week, you're going after benign words that you seem to be confusing with a different connotation. It's sad. It's pathetic. You shouldn't be teaching kids.
No, absolutely. And there is a high school in Portland called Benson High School, Benson Polytechnic.
What did Benson do?
Well, Benson, as you know, was a sitcom in the 80s.
Yes.
Starring Robert Guillaume. And I think that could trigger people who are saddened by his passing. Or Reed College. You know, think about the people who have been so upset by the idea of an American teenager decades ago being caned. Caned with a reed.
Oh, that's another word we could go after.
Absolutely.
Spelled with a K and a C. Also, there's Hanging Rock in State Park in North Carolina.
Not okay.
We're just going to have to change. This is how countries fall, right? This is like the beginning of the end. But I would say if you're out in Portland and you're feeling rebellious because young people are going, like the teens of today, I think are going to be way more conservative than their parents. You should go to iTunes and download everything you can from Dustin Lynch, country music singer. This would be like the most rebellious act you could do, and I highly recommend it.
You lead it back to country.
If I was black and I went to Lynch school, maybe I'd be thinking about it like, oh my gosh, this is a little upsetting. But you know that I'd be thinking of? Like, what's for dessert? Like, what are we doing at recess? These kids are in elementary school. They're not worried about the connotations of lynching in the 19th century. It's crazy. My mother is a child psychologist. Obviously, she had to make up for what happened to me. And
she is a wonderful thing.
Yes, she said one of the key to a successful child, it's a successful adulthood, is resiliency. So if you're resilient and you can withstand drama, you can withstand uncomfortable things. No one wants children to be uncomfortable anymore.
Yeah.
No one wants people to feel anything other than perfect happiness. And if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel unsafe, or there's a thought that might be a negative thought, you try to protect people from negative thinking. And then that's where the term snowflakes comes from.
Right.
It's an overused word, but I think it's apt here because these people melt at the slightest bit of temperature.
Yet every single one is unique, and they do melt quickly.
So-
Mo, please
so-
tell me you're going to defend this.
Three points on this. One, I'm a proud liberal, right? As a person of color, I'm totally, hyped up on racial insensitivity issues. This is ridiculous, right?
All right.
This is ridiculous.
Case closed. We don't need to hear the second.
Number two, I think the outrage is also a little overhyped. They changed the name of one school from Lynch View to Patrick Lynch.
Yeah, but
right?
the other two are
the other two,
but
they haven't.
the Meadows.
They just haven't renamed them yet, right? They haven't. So whatever. And then the third point I would make, respectfully to all my conservative friends, is for all the talk about, here we are sitting around a table in New York City talking about what a school in Portland, Oregon should or shouldn't do, right? I mean, it is a local issue. Let them decide it. If they're getting the kind of pushback from the community that it appears they are getting, then great.
But
right?
there are also,
But we
there are
need a
also
state
cases,
law.
I mean, it's almost like legal precedent. There are cultural precedents that we are allowed to pour over so we can examine what's going on in our own lives and make appropriate remedies so we don't all fall prey to that political hysteria.
Dana said this is how the nation crumbles. This is the first block we're going to hear falling right here. Right. Shots fired.